This is good news. If you're an MLB fan, and I'm not sure there are many that exist, or there are many that are watching or listening to the show, so all 10 of you.
Hockey and baseball continue to decline. I mean, the 5 best baseball players in America could walk into this office right now, and 95% of this audience would not know who they are. They'd be like, those are some good-looking buff dudes. But they wouldn't know that it's Mike Trout, and he's the best player. The best. Real big problem for baseball.
I love baseball, but let's face facts. Over the last few years, it's become more difficult for me to sit down and watch a game.
Baseball is the most boring sport. Who enjoys watching baseball on television anymore?
Here's another thing. The game itself is a disaster. So baseball, and this, I hate to say this. I hate to say it. Baseball right now is in major, major trouble.
Absolutely right. Baseball is in major trouble. Baseball is built on a model where the rich always win and the poor usually have no chance. The World Series is like the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. You have to be a rich bitch just to play.
Baseball is my favorite sport. I love it so much, and I love it for a couple of reasons. I love it because it's old, it's slow, and nobody likes it.
A New York Giants fan may care about, the Los Angeles Chargers or the Rams, right? But they don't care about the San Diego Padres. And because of that, on shows like this, national shows, you don't cover baseball.
The sportscasters at the Arizona Diamondbacks game can't believe the Alpha Chi Omega sisters are more interested in selfies than watching the action on the field.
Playing on a single here in the fourth, and nobody noticed. Nobody noticed. Nobody noticed. Nobody noticed. Nobody
noticed. Nor have they been on notice. America's pastime has been mismanaged for quite some time now, and while the on-the-field strategies, rules, and faces change, the product is incredible. Players are bigger, faster, stronger, and more personable than they ever have been. So why is my favorite sport a punchline? Baseball's decline as a narrative simply illustrates the true power of neglect, specifically from the media. The media's collective neglection of everything baseball has had a profound impact on my personal favorite pastime, which is fantasy baseball. Over the years, my relationship with fantasy baseball grew from what was my favorite pastime into becoming my love. When you love something, when you're emotionally invested into something, the underlying nuances that come along with that something being neglected become clear as day. Fantasy baseball content, coverage, reporting, analysis, advice, etc., and even the personalities involved is bad. And it's all lack of effort. I have nothing but effort. The fantasy baseball community, my community, deserves better. So I set out to make a meaningful difference. My name is Austin Call of Fantasy Baseball on Deck, and this is my story. Hi, my name is Austin Call, and I am a fantasy baseball analyst. And as of March 28th, 2022, I have taken my talents to YouTube. I am the founder, producer, director, screenwriter, editor, music producer, singer-songwriter, and head of graphic design at the Department of FBOD, Fantasy Baseball on Deck. And what is Fantasy Baseball on Deck? You asked. It's a fantasy baseball analysis, coaching, and advice channel for all redraft formats, specifically on ESPN, and favored towards more head-to-head, but also can hold my own in categories as well. I am contacting you at Fantasy Pros to specifically, reach out about the fantasy baseball analyst position coming up. We've got around 50 days until opening day, and trying to make my number one hobby into my purpose and my full-time job and career moving forward. Couldn't be more excited to be here today and talk to you guys about fantasy baseball and kind of like my outlook on things and why it's different and why I've been successful so far. Obviously in my application you will see this, but if you need to contact my executive assistant, his name is Russell, and he will be taking all inquiries and questions. His email is here, and that is a joke because Russell is indeed a cat. He does not understand the concept of electronic communication. So go ahead and shoot me the email instead, and I'll get back to you. For this introduction to my application to Fantasy Pros, we're going to kind of talk about my speaking points. There's 3 of them. Number 1, I want to go over my early accomplishments as a fantasy baseball analyst on YouTube. Number 2, I want to illustrate kind of how I look at fantasy baseball in a unique way and why that's valuable to your company and even more valuable to your viewers and your audience. Number 3, I'm going to put my concepts to practice. Kind of get a real life example of why I'm different using even some of your content at Fantasy Pros. So let's jump into the content. I think that it's really important to understand that I started YouTube completely fresh in March, the very end of March 2022, March 28th to be exact. I had 0 followers, 0 subscribers, and I purposely did not communicate with any of my family and friends to support me because I truly wanted to figure out whether I could succeed on my own. And I knew that I have, again, this unique look on an outlook on things and really have this passion for it. But I just wanted to make sure that I could do it without the help of anyone, with strangers that owe me nothing, kind of thing. I'm really proud to report that my 1 month into having a fantasy baseball channel, created 15 videos, had 8.3 thousand views, 1.6 thousand watch hours, and gained 96 subscribers, which again, with the concept of starting out with nothing 1 month after, was pretty awesome. Now looking at the remainder of the season, I got up to 10,000 views, 1.75 thousand watch hours, and 110 subscribers. And another stat that I'm pretty proud of, 50 people commented, and I replied to all 50. It's a really, really interactive crowd. The people that do follow me are super engaged, and I couldn't be more appreciative for how nice they've been. And I look forward to producing a good product, good valuable product for 2023 and moving forward. If we go to our kind of tangible successes over year one, I played in 3 leagues, 2 redraft leagues, both on ESPN, and then another dynasty league that was on CBS. We look at my first slide with my first league attached to it. My goal for every fantasy baseball league is to, especially redrafts, is to not only finish in first place, but finish in first in points for. Not only finish in first with points for, but the expectation is that I blow past everyone by at least 1,000 points. And I was successfully able to do that across both leagues. I had scored 1,000 more points across the entire season than anyone else in the league, in the second place, and so on. And obviously, it stretches down. The number gets pretty big as you look at the last place number. So, this was, if you look at the points for, that's that stat. Everything that's highlighted in yellow below are individual categories that I finished in first place, which I was, again, pretty proud of. Obviously, if I finished in points for, first in points for with that margin, you'd expect me to lead in most of the important stat category margins. I would have led in runs as well. I finished in second by 1 run, so darn it. And then saves in third. I only got 3 pitchers. That's kind of the magic number, but pretty proud of what I was able to accomplish in League 1. League 2 finished overall in second place and in the tournament, but I was first place in points for by over 1,000 points, and led a lot in a lot of the similar categories throughout the year. I really dominant team. My League 3, this is a dynasty league that I run with my brother, and historically we've been really good. 2020 we were the champions. 2021 we were finished second place, and this most recent year, 2022, we finished in second again. My total earnings for the year, $540. Being able to report to my subscribers and people that follow me on YouTube that the proof is in the pudding. What I'm doing with my own fantasy team is what I am preaching to you guys. So I look forward to getting even better, improving upon that. But this is the usual. This is kind of what I expect. First place, second is pretty much the average. As mentioned before, I have been a lone wolf completely by myself so far, and an opportunity and an effort to kind of diversify my portfolio of experience. I've reached out to some sites to collaborate on some things. Since January 24th, there's been an increase in over 200 followers at Fantasy Six Pack, from 720 to 920 followers with only 5 videos. Another thing to be really proud of. The most gratifying of all of my accomplishments in year one is that there were 2 senior business students at the Farmer College of Business at Miami University that contacted me and specifically chose to do their project on my channel, Fantasy Baseball Deck, on YouTube. Their assignment was to create an RFP, request for proposal, to increase engagement between Major League Baseball and their fans. Their idea was to enhance engagement via fantasy baseball and sports gambling. So what did they do? They went to YouTube, surf the subject matter experts that are analyzing the sport on a year-round basis. They watched multiple videos across all different channels, and they decided to pick me. I was their favorite for particular reasons that I'm really proud of. In our interview, I asked them kind of what separated me apart from my competitors. Why was I differentiated? Why did you choose me? And one of the students told me that I was more prepared than anyone that they had watched. I was really serious. Everything was very well scripted, and there was no buffer time. Every single second was filled with useful context that was supporting any of the content. She also said that the context was super helpful because every opinion was met with a lot of information in the back end to support my overall thoughts and why my opinion was what it was. Number 3 said that my overall explanations were really transparent and easy to understand, and relating that back to even some feedback through comments that I've gotten on YouTube. Several people have reached out and said this is my first year or first time around trying fantasy baseball out, and they said specifically that watching my videos, it's really easy to understand, and they really appreciate my methodical thought processes and teaching concepts because it's easy and engaging to grasp a hold of, to be able to tangibly use with their own team, essentially. And then said that I had a lot of energy and that they could tell that I was passionate about this thing. And my response to that is that I could not be more excited to have a space where I'm able to communicate and engage and interact with people in my community that is a fantasy baseball community that love it as much as I do, and I couldn't be more energetic or enthusiastic about anything in my life. So fantasy baseball is by far away my number 1 favorite passion, and I'm trying to make it my purpose.
Hello, I'm Gary Romaine.
I'm Sophia Rosen.
And we met with Austin Cole for a few hours over a process where we were working on an RFP for the MLB. We quickly learned that Austin Cole is a fantasy expert, very knowledgeable in baseball as well as other fantasy sports.
He was really helpful to us, immediately agreed to meet with us and answer any fantasy baseball related questions we had, gave us a lot of good information for our project.
He answered all of our questions, gave us even more information than we asked for, sent us follow-up emails with links of stuff that really helped us in our knowledge of fantasy baseball, and led us to our product and the RFP that we gave to the MLB. So we want to say thank you to Austin. He's a great guy from what we gathered with him, and he was very helpful to us in our project.
Thank you.
Part number 2 is being able to illustrate to you how I analyze baseball in a different, unique way, and why that differentiates me from my competitors, and why that's more valuable to you at Fantasy Pros and to the audience overall. What you're looking at on the screen right now is a difference between perceived valuable and actual value in regards to the scope of being able to not only master a subject, but be able to teach it to a group of individuals who are not up to your level. My whole life, the subject matter experts that have been speaking to me have really gotten away with throwing a lot of words at me, the non-subject matter expert, without really having to explain their thoughts and feelings of why they've arrived at the opinion that they have. I've really kind of come to the understanding that most of the subject matter experts online that are talking about fantasy baseball, fantasy football, and sports in general kind of like follow a trend. And the trend really starts out with that they share or defend an opinion on anything relating to fantasy baseball by using the information on hand, and they're using the information, they're manipulating the information to support their argument, with specifically trying to keep the other perspectives in the dark so that they seem right and they don't have to explain themselves, kind of thing. And this isn't the story with everyone, but this is just kind of the cut and paste, rinse and repeat, stylistic words that I hear so often on every single site. And that's kind of why I created Fantasy Baseball on Deck, because I felt like things weren't done the right way and that I can make a difference. So all encompassing, to me, a perceived subject matter expert is someone who tells people what to think. And it's not a matter that they don't know what they're talking about. It's just a matter of that they're not willing to, or they don't have the ability or time to really explain to you, the non-subject matter expert, why they've arrived at their opinion with full clarity. It's kind of without transparency, you're able to produce more content. You have less kickback on people calling out your wrongdoings and things, and overall just kind of leads to a less quality product. But that's turned into the formula over the years. And it took me approximately 17 seconds to find a really good example of someone who is a fantasy baseball analyst giving a yay or nay opinion on a player without any sort of clarity, rhyme, or reason as to why he thinks the way that he does. So basically, I went to my YouTube homepage. I was populated all kinds of different fantasy baseball channels because that's kind of my thing. I clicked on a title from a market shareholder called Second Base and Shortstop Tiers Strategy ADP and Players to Target Fantasy Baseball Advice. And this was put on by Fantasy Baseball Today from CBS. The character that we're going to be focusing on specifically, his name is Scott White. He's going to be in the top right corner. And to pay homage to the Water Boy.
Who's it going to be? Who's it going to be? Who's it going to be? Oh yeah, there's my...
So Scott's going to be asked what his thoughts are on Jonathan India and Tiaro Estrada, and he's completely caught off guard, not prepared for the question at all. He's going to talk about how he doesn't like Tiaro Estrada because he's on the San Francisco Giants, even though they were the 11th most productive team in baseball when it comes to runs in 2022, and only improved offensively last season. Past tense, he literally says out loud that he didn't know much about Tiaro Estrada, and he certainly has no idea what the current status of the player is either. So he just sort of begins stalling, and his teammates sort of like fill in with some fun facts and even a little bit of singing. Scott does a little more styling even, and then you'll see him slump his shoulders forward and kind of look over to the other screen as he begins to literally Google search Tiaro Estrada's stats and the San Francisco Giants lineup and kind of where he sits and said thing. And then he sort of stalls a little more, and from this point on, the speaking that he manages to utter is just actively flying by the seat of his pants, and he is reading information out loud from the screen as he learns it. So not a super awesome experience as someone who sort of knows what they're talking about. He will talk about how he hates the lineup fixtures, even though like he won't mention anyone within the lineup except Wilmer Flores. This is the first name that he saw that he thought might be in competition with Tiaro Estrada, and Wilmer Flores essentially is going to get more at bats and have a longer leash at 32 years old compared to Tiaro Estrada, even though Tiaro Estrada is supposed to be the leadoff guy and is going to get ideally more at bats than anyone else on the roster. This is the only player that he referenced that will be in competition to Tiaro Estrada. And at the end of the video, essentially he says that he wouldn't draft Tiaro Estrada unless it was very, very late. But he doesn't talk about how late or like what second baseman have to be off the board for him to consider Tiaro Estrada. And then he actually never even addresses Jonathan India. So he speaks for an entire minute and 20 seconds and doesn't give you any facts on Jonathan India. And then often on to the next segment, because obviously quantity over quality is the rinse and repeat strategy here. And then he just sort of goes back to staring on his phone, which is what he was doing before, and kind of looks generally ashamed because he was overall unprepared to speak about the subject at hand. So unfortunately, this is the experience that we all witnessed kind of on the norm at this point. His opinions were, I don't like Tiara Estrada, but I also don't know anything about Tiara Estrada. He literally says it out loud, or the Giants roster. I'm going to stick with this opinion all while providing zero stats. He doesn't say one stat category, thought, opinion about Tiara Estrada, why he would or not take him for a second base position. And, it just seems very clear that like he's very thankful that they're on to the next topic because he couldn't be less engaged. So what I really want you to get out of this video, I want you to put yourself into the shoes of the audience and ask yourself kind of 3 questions. And, what did the audience learn about Tiara Estrada? Was the minute analysis helpful? Did you walk away from the experience learning more about Tiara Estrada than you knew before? And number 3, are you more or less likely to access CBS Fantasy Baseball Today analysis and episodes at a future date, given how poor of an experience this was for me? So enjoy.
Scott, anything on Jonathan India and Tyro Estrada? Jonathan India and Tyro Estrada? Jonathan India and Tyro Estrada?
If Tyro Estrada didn't play for the Giants, I'd like him a lot more. But where did he come from? Can he possibly continue this?
I thought you were going to start singing Cotton Eye Joe.
Yeah.
Where did you come from, Tyro Estrada?
I mean, I hadn't heard of him before last year, and even early on last year, it was
former great Yankee prospect. Come on, Scott, former great Yankee prospect. How did you not know him?
AFL in 2018, baby.
There you go. But yeah, I mean, the Giants, they have so few lineup fixtures that it would take so I was amazed they played him as much as they did last year. And, they're going to be looking for opportunities to get Wilmer Flores in the lineup. So if he doesn't hit the ground running at the start of next year, does he become just this part-time player who wasn't worth investing in? I think that's a very, very plausible scenario. So it'd have to be pretty late for me to draft him.
All right, fair enough.
One of my most valuable assets to you as an audience is being able to give you opinions, thoughts, advice that's transparent in a way that you understand, but also in a way that's anticipatory. So it's something that has not passed by. You can do it while it's still here, make super valuable moves before the trends catch up and move past us. And there's all kinds of examples of that, and they'll be highlighted throughout the rest of my highlight video. But focusing again on the actual subject matter experts, both sets of subject matter experts have the same amount of knowledge per se about fantasy baseball and baseball stats in general. But if you really look at it from the scope of being able to teach and bring people along and up to speed with you, then you can really understand the difference and understand why I'm going at this in a different fashion. So as I said before, perceived subject matter experts, someone who's really smart but doesn't know how to communicate, will share and defend an opinion on anything fantasy baseball using information on hand to tell people what to think, essentially. What I'm trying to do in my concepts and why I am different from the others and why I pride myself on spending so much time in this extra venture and trying to make a career out of it is I'm trying to do the same thing but in a different direction. I'm trying to share and defend an opinion on anything relating to fantasy baseball using the most valuable information only in a manner that elevates the audience to be able to understand and make a better decision on their own. I want to create better problem solvers. I want to bring them up to speed so that they're always making more educated decisions. I'm trying to elevate everyone else. I want you to be able to present me with more thought-provoking questions that further you as an individual, as my audience. I'm trying to basically, instead of tell people what to think, I'm trying to teach people how to think. And that's why I've been so successful and why the feedback has been so positive. I need to be able to communicate something that I've studied for 14 years to someone who's just jumping into it now for the first time. So that is my true value to you. I'm giving you advice, but giving you advice in a way that's tangible and easy to understand, so you can universally take my concepts and apply it to your own team, because no two teams are the same. The definition of fantasy baseball analysis as a whole is utilizing past data to support future predictions, okay? So now we're going to move into part 3 of my introduction, where we specifically focus on an example of how I put these processes into practice so you can see it real time. On your screen, you will see a Jordan Walker player preview. It's the very first video I found on Fantasy Pros website at the very top. I scrolled through to see what players they were going to talk about. I landed on one that I also supported to make sure that I had positive things to say about the player, and we landed on Jordan Walker. Jordan Walker is essentially, he's given a player evaluation and a ranking by the gentleman on the right at Fantasy Pros. To give you kind of a recap of what he said, it essentially goes from, he predicts a similar performance to Julio Rodriguez. He talked about how no one thought that Julio Rodriguez, this past year's AL Rookie of the Year, would have broke camp with the opening day roster. And when they did, he flew up draft boards and he was super valuable. He said also that Jordan Walker has a 30 home run potential with a full season of play. He can run and that he can play the outfield. He also mentions that Jordan Walker would have a similar ADP as Gunnar Henderson if he's on the opening day roster. And that was essentially what I gathered as an individual watching, this video. And I want you to put yourself into the perspective of someone who is just getting into fantasy baseball. And I want you to go to, minute 37 and 56 seconds and watch through minute 39, the 2 minutes of in-depth conversation, and really think to yourself, how valuable was the information shared about Jordan Walker to someone who's just entering fantasy baseball or entering the sport of baseball as a first timer, to see how valuable was the information shared. It wasn't a TikTok. It wasn't a short preview. This was a 2-minute dive. And I thought that a lot of the 2 minutes were wasted with a lot of skeptical hypotheticals and comparisons to another player that someone might not understand or know. And really think about from their perspective, what is the value of that 2 minutes? And I'll give you the opportunity, obviously, to watch that on your own. As that non-subject matter expert, me thinking about watching that video, what did I learn? Jordan Walker is a rookie with good pop. He will have an opportunity to win and earn the opening day job. He's currently way undervalued, given that he's not on the opening day roster, and he has a 30 home run potential with a full season. This is my understanding. The way that I would have gone about this video is really building the foundation and going at it from a storytelling perspective and adding all of those nuances that are super helpful when you're making a decision in fantasy baseball. So this is how I would have gone through the player evaluation using my concepts at fantasy baseball on deck about Jordan Walker. Jordan Walker is a highly touted prospect, number 4 overall at MLB Pipeline. He's listed as a third baseman for the St. Louis Cardinals. The relevance of rookies and importance of rookies, if you're kind of a first timer in fantasy baseball, is that rookies are one of the most valuable commodities to have and hit at the right times. Just this past year, 5 rookie All-Stars were in the 2022 All-Star game, not including the names of Kyle Reiching, McClanahan, Michael Harris II, Spencer Strider, and more. So don't be afraid of these rookies because they can be extremely impactful. One of the major concerns that this guy mentioned was that he would be a surefire top 150 player, similar to Gunnar Henderson, if he was on the opening day roster. And what I would have shared is the draft compensation rule that's just recently came in to prevent teams from holding back their players an extra month to keep them for an extra year, is that if you play a rookie in the first month of the season and don't hold them back, there's an opportunity to gain draft picks if they finish in the top 5 of their league's rookie of the year. So if Jordan Walker has the ability, shows the ability, and wins the job, there should be honestly nothing holding him back from being the everyday starting right fielder for the St. Louis Cardinals. What's important to understand is that he's listed as a third baseman, but he's exclusively going to be an outfielder for the St. Louis Cardinals. So let's talk Jordan Walker's defensive ability, right? So if we're thinking about a third baseman transitioning to the outfield, we're worried about him maybe not being able to field his position to a high level and losing at bats because of it. Well, if we look at his sprint speed, he's in the 92nd percentile. He had 22 stolen bases in 2022 in only 119 games, and he immediately slots in as potentially the fastest outfielder that they have on roster. Also defensively, and kind of like a way that he really differentiates himself is that his arm strength is in the top 10th percentile. He throws a ball at a max 99.5 miles per hour, and that's perfect for someone who is looking to play the right corner outfield spot. So if you have any hesitations about defense, don't, because he's plenty athletic, he's plenty fast enough, and he has the best arm for that position. Now let's get to the exciting part. The hitting is a 65 out of 80 power grade. Scouts give grades up to a 0 out of 80 across 5 tools to a player that's coming up to the major leagues. Jordan Walker earned a 65, which is well above average. He has a very simple long swing. Though he's a 6'5", 220-pound individual with a large strike zone, he historically has had a 300+ average. So hitting wise, he truly is a rare 5-tool potential player, which is why he's so undervalued currently, given the competition that he has in the outfield. So in conclusion, there is a lot of competition for the outfield spots in St. Louis, but Jordan Walker is just a more independent player because he's marginally better than all of his peers at all 5 of his tools. And that's what I would want to convey to someone, regardless of the knowledge level of baseball, fantasy baseball, and prospects coming up. So in my version, why I think that I was different is I really tried to build the analysis into more of a storytelling opportunity. And to me, and what I've even heard from feedback from my subscribers and people that invest into me on YouTube, is that taking the time to add a ton of quality words to a player's evaluation makes a more engaging relationship between my audience and myself, because we're on the same playing field and we can better help each other be me a better teacher, better portrayer of information, and then be a better producer, have better productivity and better results, because they're able to really understand my thought process and where I'm coming from. And overall, if I'm super transparent about all my thoughts, there's no questions of why I think the way that I am, or why I think the way that I do, regardless of whether you approve of it or you agree with it or not. The extra transparency, that undeniable level of transparency, just equates to more and more trust between me and the viewer. And that's just not an experience that people get everywhere. Teaching fantasy baseball in this universal way is really just like being a good ambassador to the sport. It deserves it, and really an opportunity to drive the sport forward with early quality engagement and loyalty to the sport.